I hope I've linked. Yeah, I have linked up. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So we're live, and welcome to my third in a series of a trilogy of live client interviews. And if you're joining me live, I'm live on 3 different platforms at the moment: Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. But you can also catch the recording later on YouTube and my other platforms if you haven't had the time to watch all of it today and you've just tuned in, or you've just come in just now and you've seen a bit of it but haven't got time to watch it all now, you can always get it later on any of those platforms. But I'd like to welcome a really great guest tonight, and my longest client, David White, all the way from Wales, who's joining me kindly to share with me his experience of working with me over the time that we've been together, which has been how long now? It's been a long while. I can't remember. It's
Yeah,
longer than a marriage.
in some cases, yes, it is. I think 2.5 years maybe
Yeah,
since we started speaking.
been a while. It's been a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a journey, that's for certain. It's been some
Mm.
journey, and you are definitely my longest client. And you're the one who's, well, all my clients are successful, but in different ways. But you're the one who's gone to that next level in terms of the work we've been doing, because you're at a very advanced stage now where you've moved forward with your life, and yeah, you're a prime example of the work that what can be achieved when you do the work. So tonight, thank you for coming onto my show to discuss that and
Right.
share with you, other people, what you've experienced and been through. So I'm going to start off tonight, just briefly talk about yourself, a little bit about what sort of guy you are as a person and what brought you here in the first place when we first met, and if you could just elaborate on a few things like that and
Sure.
explain what brought you here.
Well, I was following yourself on Facebook for a long time before we actually connected, and I was monitoring what you're doing, and with the men coaching, coaching people when they're in a bad space. And for me, um, I was in a pretty bad space. My
Mm,
anxiety was through the roof, and
mm,
I was suffering in work. I didn't have any focus, and everything was just getting on top of me.
mm,
And to a point where my health started to get affected. I was already aware that my mental health was in pieces, but I didn't do anything about it until my physical health started to deteriorate. And at that point,
mm,
and that manifested itself in me not sleeping. And I remember I
mm.
first got in touch with you, Mark, about just about sleeping.
Yeah.
I didn't think at that point, I was going to go any further with this, but we had a quick session about just getting some sleep, basically, so I could function next day and not feel
Mm,
so run down.
I
And
remember.
that was the first time that we did some counselling, and then following on from that, um, COVID moved into the picture as well, and then I really started to go downhill. And that's when I contacted you again, and we put something in place for a weekly get together,
That's right.
and that was probably about 2 years ago, and
Yeah, it's
we've
about
been
two
doing it
years, I
every
think.
week. Yeah,
Yeah,
we've been doing it every week since, and
yeah. Well,
we've come a long way, and I've certainly
you've come
changed
a
a
long
lot.
way, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
So
you
you
know,
touched on some of the things that you actually were struggling with back then. I mean,
mm,
I remember when we first started. You said there you were struggling to sleep at night, and it was just on the back of COVID. So you were working for, just so people can understand, you work from home. You've got a good job, you're a
yeah,
busy job, so you had a lot of work life balance issues going on as well. I remember, and
yeah,
you were working long
yeah.
hours, like sometimes to midnight, and
Mm.
that was affecting a lot of different areas of your life, wasn't it? Like you said, the physical aspect and
Yeah, it
all
was.
different sides of that.
I was ignoring my physical, self and mental
Mm,
self just to,
mm,
please others and colleagues, and meet my work targets, and
mm,
it just got so out of hand, and
yeah,
especially with COVID, then from working from home and
mm,
not actually having any contact with my peers in work. The sort of isolation really got on top of me,
Yeah.
and until we started to take it all apart,
That's right.
through the session.
Mm.
And the first thing that I learned from when we did start was picking up on awareness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was the thing that really kick-started the whole process off for me, because
Yeah.
I would be sitting there and I'd be, trying to get up to do something, and I'd just be, I wouldn't do it. I'd just ignore it. And through sharpening my awareness, or being aware of when I was feeling like that, I was then able to start making changes and identifying what was getting me into that sort of rut.
Yeah.
And that was the first sort of building
Yeah.
block for me in this process. Once I
It
got
often
that
is, isn't
together,
it? Yeah.
I was able then to start seeing it come at me as such, and it was still a long way off from where we are today, but the awareness was certainly the most
I often
important thing
say,
that
as
got
you
me.
know, I mean, the first, there's two. I mean, we've discussed this before between us, but other people, there's two main elements that really any of us need to work on in order to us to start creating a life that we choose, and that's self-awareness. Without the self-awareness, we've got nothing, so that is really the key to all of it in a lot of ways. Self-acceptance is another one, as we've discussed as well. Side of things, but just however long, and both of those areas, they've opened up doors for you so that you've been able to move forward in terms of your anxiety and confidence, like we said, the work-life balance, all the different elements of your life which was troubling you before. How would you describe in your, I mean, if again, I mean, I remember when we first met, you were doing like team meetings,
Mm,
like online, and a lot of the time you were nervous or you had anxiety about going ahead and doing those meetings. And before you'd go on, you'd talk yourself into a stupor. And then when you get on there, you would just want to get off as quick as possible and so on, and
yeah,
create that anxiety. And you felt like you weren't doing yourself justice, because you're good at your job and everything. It's just that you
yeah.
weren't doing yourself justice on there. Now, in terms of, you've touched on there about the self-awareness, you're much more self-aware in how you present yourself and how you think and you feel and you act. Now, in terms of things like the anxiety and the confidence when you're going ahead and presenting yourself and working, what would you say the change now is compared to where you were?
Well, when I go to meetings now, I have zero anxiety, um, or any stresses which would put me off from attending the meeting. Before I got to the bottom of all the things that were going wrong for me in the workspace, because we worked on two different areas initially. We
Mm.
started on the workspace, then we started on my
That's right.
social, my personal spaces.
Mm.
And I would be coming up with excuses not to attend these calls, and it would be from my dog escaping out the back over the wall, or I was stuck in traffic. It'd be anything. I just couldn't bring myself to be on this call and and speak, because we would go around. There'd be sometimes there'd be 10 people on the call, other times there'd be 80 people on the call, and the 80
Yeah.
people on the call, that oh, by the time it was my turn to talk, I would be sweating. I wouldn't be.
I remember.
I
Yeah.
would be writing down stuff to say,
Yeah.
and I would read the first sentence and the last sentence of something
There's
that took me
nothing else.
20 minutes to write.
Yeah.
And it couldn't. It came over. I know it came over terribly to my team and my peers, and to a degree, I contacted my manager after that. I said, look, I can't do these things. They're they're really stressing me out. And as you can see from that, I was in a right pickle. And it
Yeah.
was also,
I
it was
remember it.
video as well as audio. So you were there, and you'd have 80 people looking back at you on that screen, and I'd be just going to pieces.
Yeah.
But through the process that we've been through over the last 2 years, I was able to identify. The first thing is that my energy was always low, and I couldn't. So because it was low, I couldn't even start to begin the process of coming up with what I was going to say on the call, how I
Mm.
was going to produce or relay my update on the work that I was particularly doing at that time. And so the first thing was I was always tired, and
Yeah.
maybe that's an excuse again, or one of the avoidance tactics I was using.
Yeah.
But so I worked on the sleep, but the sleep was a very important thing to get right, to a point where where I wouldn't sleep for more than 2 hours a night if I was lucky. I'm getting probably about 8 hours, with a bit of a break in the middle. I'm still not going straight the way through, but
It's
I'm
going to
getting
affect
some
everything,
decent
isn't it?
sleep now. So now I got the energy
Mm.
level there, and I feel that I can then go on to the calls and
Mm.
give myself a bit more of a chance to get things done. And
Mm.
as I progressed through this process, the calls got a lot easier. My confidence grew because I have very low esteem. I always thought that, I'm not worthy of this job. And I thinking, how
Mm.
can you think like that when you've been doing it for 30 odd, 40 years? And I was like really having a word with myself about it. And
Mm.
through all the things that we've learned together, I've learned through doing this course, I was able to bring my self-esteem back to where it should be, and my confidence came back with it
Yeah.
as well. And so, I must do on a weekly basis. I probably do about 10 to 15 calls per week, which are all video related, and
Mm.
working with various individuals some I know through work. They're part of my team. Others, they're just people that have just come to me for new pieces of work.
Mm.
And regardless of who it is now, it doesn't really bother me. I
Yeah.
now
Well, I mean,
know that I can do it, and
we
I
talked
believe I
about
can
that
do
the other
anything.
day, didn't we? I
Yeah,
mean, you went to a Christmas party in front of 80 people,
that's right.
and and now when you're doing your talks, you're not just haven't got the anxiety, you're confident, you're talking freely because you know and recognize that you're there by merit and that you're doing
Mm,
a job that you're good at, and you're recognized for that job by a lot of people because all of your peers and the people you work for know that you're, because you're freelance. People won't realize that you're not employed by the company, but you're actually freelance, and they take you on because you're good and you're needed. And you've said to me you hadn't realized that before, really, because you had that self-doubt and low
yeah.
confidence. But now you're recognizing how much you're worth to these people and how much they value you and how well you do your job because you know you're good at what you're doing.
Yeah,
And
it took a
that's now
long
coming
time,
through.
through all of my career. I've always had jobs, and I've never really, I've always, and it's a thing that my friends have always said. You're lucky, you're bloody lucky, and I used to use that. That was the excuse. I was just damn lucky.
Yeah,
This is how I got
yeah.
the jobs. But then, after it all went, it all fell off the edge of the earth two and a half
Right.
years ago, and I had to come back.
Yeah.
Now I'm here, and now I believe I should be here. I'm worthy of this position
Mm,
that I hold down
I
in the
agree.
job. And the
Yeah.
thing about the party, it's the first time in all my career, unbelievably, that I went to a Christmas party and I was looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I
Yeah.
never would look
You'd
forward to
avoided
these
it in the
parties.
past, you said.
I would have avoided it, and I had an extra sort of a spanner thrown in the works leading up to this party. I've got a wingman who works in
Yeah.
my local office, and he got a new position within our organization, and he was moving, and he turned around. He says, "I'm not going," and I said, "Are you joking?" So, and boof, awareness straight away. Anxiety came up a bit, but I was aware of it, and I said,
Mm.
so, but I was able to deal with it rather than just what I would have done in the old days. That anxiety would have built and built and built to the day of the party, and I would just either wouldn't have gone, or I would have just
What
been.
did you do different
And
though?
I,
What was the change? I mean, this is the thing. Highlighting that. I mean,
mm,
you're obviously aware of it happening. This is what happens with a lot of people. We have stress reactions. You'll never ever avoid a stress reaction. We're going to get triggered by things all the time. But as you rightly say, when you're more self-aware of these things and you can actually recognize when they're happening, we can do something about that and change it and create
yeah.
something, create the emotion and the feeling and the action that actually works for us rather than doesn't. So, what did you do in that situation that was different?
Um, well, I used some tactics to ease any possible anxiety. So the
Mm.
first thing that I did, I arrived the day before the party was going to start, and we had an all-day event in the office, and then it was drinks, food, and whatnot in the
Yeah,
evening. So I came up the day before, so I wasn't rushing. I didn't want to, get off the plane and get into the office and be
yeah.
all hot and flustered.
Triggering yourself. Yeah.
So I prepared myself to be there the night before.
Mm.
Um, the office was literally a walk around the corner. I made sure I got something nice and local, so I wasn't going to turn up all hot and bothered.
Flustered. Yeah.
Uh, there, I'd already looked at various food arrangements for that night. I was there on my own.
You
I had a
prepared
nice
yourself.
Indian. There was a pub around the
Yeah.
corner. And so, I was really well balanced, for the day ahead. So when I got up next day, I was already on site more or
Calm.
less. And I got to the office at about 9:30, expecting everybody to be coming in at 10, and no one came in till about 11. So that was it. My anxiety was back running up now, thinking, am I in the
Yeah.
right place?
Mm.
But I remained calm. I got my laptop out. I did a little bit of work, and people started to filter in one at a time. And
Mm.
a lot of these
What helped you
people, I
stay
had,
calm though? What was it that you specifically do you think
um,
was
I
it?
kept on telling myself, there's nothing going to happen in the next 24 hours you haven't been through before. So,
Yeah.
don't start thinking about talking to people, because the room I was in, it was huge. It was an auditorium, big screen, all the
Yeah.
rest of it. And I was in there on my own, and I thought, like, how many people are actually coming to this, and
Mm.
but I didn't let any of them thoughts
Mm.
give them enough
You were able to
running room.
reframe the original thought,
Yeah,
which was
yeah, just reframe it
creating
every time. Just
anxiety.
re redo that, and
Yeah.
then every time someone came in the door, they looked at me and they smiled. The first thing they
Yeah.
did, they smiled. They recognized me from
Yeah.
the meetings that we've been having for the past 2 years on Teams and all the rest of it. And I felt a little bit. I always like to turn up places early so that it's easier to deal with the if there is any anxiety, it's easier to deal with because it's
Mm.
coming in
Mm.
bit by bit. So yeah, as people were turning up, they all turned up at the different times. So it wasn't me walking into a
So
room
it's
full of
easier.
people.
Yeah.
I was in the room empty, and people were coming
Mm.
in one at a time. And if anything, it gave me an advantage, and because I was aware that I could be anxious about it, and
Yeah.
and times gone by, I would have been.
Mm. And
But
then,
in this,
and also, I suppose in this experience, your confidence grew as the time went on because you realised that you
yeah,
were able to cope with it and deal with it in a way that you wanted to, rather than allow that to affect you in the way that it would have in the past.
yeah, that was a big turning point for my confidence.
Mm.
That was last year, and
Mm.
in December, first week in
Mm.
December, and our sessions this year have
Mm.
they've
Yes.
definitely changed in direction. Well, not in direction, but in speed in terms of trajectory. We're really moving through things, and my confidence has
Yeah.
gone up so much higher. And it was, that was one of the tests for me, if you like,
Oh
that
yeah,
Christmas party.
definitely. And I think you
And I
came
came
through it
through
with
it,
cope.
and it was, I had a really good time.
Yeah.
I met with everybody, and any of this limiting belief stuff that you come across, or maybe I won't like them, and that I never had that for one
Mm.
second of that event. Whereas
Mm.
before, I would be terrible with limiting belief. So
Yeah. And
it
that,
was the
again, it's all linked to
preparation.
self-awareness, isn't it? I mean, this is the
Yeah,
thing. I mean,
yeah, the
the
awareness
more
is
aware we
the
are, the
key.
less those happen.
And once I started, when I was aware of myself and accepting myself, it
Mm.
was just, it was so much
Yeah.
easier to deal with these potential anxiety
Yeah.
situations that I would ultimately end up in. And but since the anxiety, since the awareness has been so good throughout, I've been much better placed to deal with any potential anxiety situations like the Christmas party, or
Stress
the daily
reaction.
meetings and all the rest of it.
Yeah, yeah. We've
It's
done a
been
lot of
very,
work in the last, however, since we've moved on to the next level or so, because the people who won't know, there's different levels of, I mean, I do a 6-month program with people, which is like basically laying the foundations to a new mindset, really. And then when you've done that, when you've learned that part, we can, if you choose, you can go on to another more advanced level where we're looking at what influences us in every core area of our life. And there's 6 core areas, as you well know, Di: mental, emotional, physical, social, spiritual, and environmental influences. Now, we've done a lot of work on these, haven't we? And,
yeah,
the main core areas in all of our lives, which influence how we show up and the way we work, so that anyone looking in not knowing, is we look at each area to find out where and what is draining us, and then we repair that drain, and we work on how we can increase the energy in each of these areas so that they're always at a level of optimal performance for us. So if you get all of those together at a level of a decent level of performance, then you're always going to be productive, you're always going to be successful. Now, we've done lots of work on these, haven't we, Di?
yeah,
And
we have.
you're at a really high level now. Well, I mean, we've got an assessment, an app, where you can actually assess yourself to see where you are. And recently you did one, and you come out 8 out of 10 in all of these areas,
Yeah.
and which is
Yeah, I was
amazing.
surprised. Yeah, because
Yeah.
that app you mentioned it to me many
Mm,
months ago, and I never used it. And
yeah,
I can't remember. I did write down what I was doing, didn't I? Because when you open up the app,
mm.
you just put in a little heading saying,
Yeah, it's like a
uh,
task. Yeah,
yeah, a
whatever your
task.
task is. Yeah,
What are you about to do? And I
yeah,
can't remember the one I did.
yeah,
But I went through it, and as you said, it came out, 8 out of 10 in most of
mm,
the areas.
yeah.
And
Which
again,
shows great
it
progress.
just it just played back that the work
Mm,
that we've been doing, the work that I've done,
mm,
with this process is
mm,
working, because
definitely.
I couldn't even get the bloody app to work when I first did it. When you first told me, I was
Yeah.
going, what's this all? Because I wasn't thinking straight. I wasn't thinking that
Yeah.
clearly,
Well, we
because
are. Your mind's a
I was
muddle, isn't it? You're a million things
yeah, and
going,
I was
million things
tired,
going on.
and all these
Yeah.
things were playing into, why I
Yeah.
couldn't do it, and
Mm,
as I said to you before, I've reread the books again, and
yeah.
it was a really good experience to read them again, because
And again,
the
just touching on what before you, so anyone watching doesn't know what you're on about. The books, like every client I have gets workbooks. So carry on,
mm.
just so people
Yeah,
know.
so I've got three. So when I
Mm,
first started and I was reading them, I could understand, because it really suited my way of thinking. I'm very logical. I've got to, if something goes up, I want to know why it's going up. If it
that's
goes
good.
fast, what's making it go fast? I'll take it all apart to understand what it is. And so and that's what I liked about the books. I thought, this is
Mm.
something I can actually get
You've
involved
got a
with. It
logical
makes sense to
mind.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Common sense
so
approach.
when I
Yeah.
first read them, I was like going, "Phew, this is good." It took some time. I said to you, I said,
Mm.
we must have been about
That's normal
six
though.
or seven, sessions in, and I'm going, I don't know. I'm still, but then,
Yeah,
as the awareness kicked in and I was getting more sleep, and I used to, we used to do it on a Wednesday afternoon, and so what I realized is that I was always tired on a Wednesday afternoon, because I'd have meetings all day that day. And then I'd come out of the meeting and then straight into our session, and I'd be knackered.
yeah.
And then I'm trying to learn new things again. So,
It's hard, isn't it?
so I
It's like
moved it
learning
to
a
a
new language.
Thursday. Yeah, it is,
Yeah,
but rereading the books again, just during the Christmas, I had some downtime, and so I reread the books. They
yeah.
made so much more sense,
Well,
that,
there's, I mean,
and
if
it
you,
gave me new avenues as well, which I didn't
yeah.
see the first time round.
Well, this is what I said to him. If you remember a long time ago, and I say to all my clients at the start, the first 3, 4 sessions, it's going to be like, bloody hell, what's going on? I don't know what the hell's going on here,
Mm,
because you're learning something new, which is completely alien to our brain. Well, it's like, it's not how we're normally thinking. So there can be resistance there. There can be like self-doubt. You're worrying about it and so on. And if you remember, I always said, just go with it and just relax and it will happen. And it did. I think after
yeah,
5 sessions, it was, you come back and and you were smiling like a Cheshire cat, and
yeah,
you're like, and people won't understand because they've not been through the process. But there's levels of energy that we work to, and you were like, it all just clicked into place instantly, and you were like
yeah,
reciting it back to me, like, yeah, and your demeanor completely had changed. You were smiling. You were like, it's like you'd hit the jackpot, and
mm,
it was brilliant to see, because when the penny finally drops in that way, I mean, obviously there's a lot more work after that,
yeah.
but when you start actually getting it and start realizing that you're getting it, and you start working on it and put it into practice, then everything starts changing. And that's the beauty of this process, because once you learn it, you can't unlearn it. And
No,
it's a
and
fantastic
I
thing.
find me doing stuff, and reciting stuff in my mind, when
Yeah,
I'm centering myself, thinking, right,
yeah,
I don't feel right here a minute. Let's
yeah.
take a moment and work out where I am and recite stuff back, and then I'm
That's
back in the
good.
room
Yeah,
then, and I can focus.
okay.
Whereas before I would be going, I just want to get out here. I want to I just want to run away from this problem and just come back
Mm.
another day. And it's now I relish these problems coming in. They're not problems,
Yeah,
they're
the
opportunities,
challenges.
and I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
them. I
yeah.
love them when they come through the
No,
door. And when I
no,
was getting work, and they were giving me a project, I'd be looking at it, go, I have absolutely no idea how the hell this is going to go together.
yeah.
And on top of me doing that, I was doing the counselling as well. So, and
Coaching.
between the
You don't even
two,
know the name of it.
coaching,
Count.
coaching. Sorry,
I've
boss.
been 2 years. You don't even know what it is. No,
I,
joke.
uh, and doing the two together was, although it was very hard, it was really good to sort of take the lesson and literally put it into play next
Yeah.
day in the morning when I'm on a call.
Yeah. I know.
And that was, and as we went through the months, things got so much better, and to a point now where, I enjoy going on the calls. I
Mm.
enjoyed sharing my knowledge with the people who are on the call who know less than me, and they are asking me, how are we going to do it? It's my job
Mm.
to make sure that they know that they're going to get what they want, no matter how
Yeah.
complex it is. I'm going to make sure that this will happen, and
Mm.
obviously my bosses believe that I'm the guy to do it. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I
And
wouldn't
you
be
know
there. And
that as
I had
well.
such a problem with that.
Mm.
And when
Mm.
I got over that, just especially in the last 2 to 3 months, and I got over that, it has literally taken off for me.
Yeah, your
Literally taken
confidence has
off.
completely gone to another level, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it
it
really
shot up,
has.
really
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
It was again, it was like another watershed moment. It was like
Yeah.
eureka. I've got that one now. So
Self
we'll
belief,
move on to
isn't
a
it?
different area. We can
It's
focus on
astonishing,
other areas.
really, how much when we do step out of that comfort zone, how hard it can be to do that at the start. But once you start doing that and get the ball rolling, the way things change is miraculous. It's amazing, really, in terms of that. The confidence and your self belief and all of this starts when you take your step out of that comfort zone, and that is the hardest part for you as well. I mean, like maybe
Mm.
you're procrastinating about it for so many months, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
normal for everybody to do that, really, because you just don't know what to do. And if you're stepping into something that you don't really understand, or you're not sure about, or you're questioning, you're coming from it from the same mental perspectives that have created that problem, like limiting beliefs, assumptions, stories that we're telling ourselves, our fears. We're creating all of those stories in our minds about whatever we're going to do. So that's why we stay in our comfort zones, because rather than take a risk and have faith that something will turn out the way we want it to, it's easier to avoid it and stay where we are, and then just say, well, it's not going to work for me, or I haven't got the money, or I haven't got the time, or it's probably, whatever. And had you done that, where do you think you would be now?
If I hadn't done it,
If you'd avoided it and not taken that step out of your comfort zone and committed to this
I
process
probably
that
wouldn't
you
be
did?
working. That would be sure. Um, if I didn't take that, if I carried on the way I was going, I just
Mm,
would have become more ill and
mm,
even more withdrawn from life.
mm, yeah.
And that rot would have set in, and it would have been a
Mm,
bigger hill to get out of, over.
yeah.
The longer I left it, and it was, as I said, it was a physical sort of jolt that
Mm,
got me, off my
that's true.
arse basically, and into like, if
Mm,
this carries on, I'm going to be somewhere I don't want to be, and I was
no.
already somewhere I didn't want to be, but
Well,
I did have,
yeah.
I
Sometimes
did
it's
have
that.
some control still, so
Yeah.
I just jumped on board straight away, and
Yeah.
I was ready for the hard work, and it was hard
Mm,
work.
mm,
The first
mm.
couple
Of
of weeks,
course.
as
Yeah.
we just said, it was,
Mm,
I was like going, "What is this?" But
mm,
I kept with it. I took away, we broke it down into pieces that we could work with,
mm,
and once we addressed we addressed all the areas, but we never had it all sort of synchronized. And then
yeah.
as we kept on going, things started to fall in place, and it all became synchronized. And
Mm,
the the rest is history, as I say.
mm.
The
What would you say the biggest takeaway from this whole process of working together has been for you then?
um, the biggest thing is acceptance of who I am and what I'm capable of, and that only came about recently. That when you used to ask me that question, say if you asked me 6 months ago, it would be the awareness. That
Mm,
was so key to me getting off off my backside and into
mm,
something I could get better with, and make me function in work. It was the awareness, but
mm,
in recent weeks, again, it's changed again,
mm,
to the self confidence, and
mm,
now when I attend calls and
mm,
stand up in front of
mm.
80 odd people to give an update on my work load.
What a
That,
journey.
I know, because I wouldn't have believed it myself. If you said that,
No,
2 years ago to
that's
me, I
what I
wouldn't have
mean.
believed
Yeah.
it. So
Mm. Can you
it's
imagine though if you'd have said that? I mean, at that time you didn't even want to go on a call, never mind speak in front of all those people.
No.
and feel the way you're feeling now. It's great to see. I mean, it really is. And so if anyone was out there, you know, in a similar position to what you probably were, not necessarily struggling in the same way, or, you know, it could be a million different things. People go through all different sorts of things in their lives. You know, it might not even be a case they're struggling. You know, some people just look for that, you know, extra bit of confidence, a bit more motivation to find that self-belief, work-life balance, whatever it may be in there, you know, people. But if there are a lot of people who do procrastinate, overthink, worry about stuff, create fears in their mind, have anxiety and all the rest of it. And especially with the current climate that we've got, we know with things that are going on around us, it's natural and normal for people to, you know, find themselves mentally, emotionally drained through these sort of situations. So if someone was going through a situation where they're struggling to break free of those sort of chains and considering moving forward in the way that you have, what would you suggest? What sort of advice would you give to them?
Well, I'd find someone like you, and I would
Someone
get,
as good as me, yeah.
but you know, outside of that, you know, the biggest thing you've got to do is you've got to be willing to work, put some work in to get yourself back to where you should be.
Okay.
You should believe in yourself. You shouldn't. And the
Mm.
procrastination, I was the worst of that. You wouldn't believe it. I would take a week to decide what color pants I would put on and things like that. It was just crazy. You know, it would start off with how can I get out of this meeting to, you know, all sorts of things. So, you know, and I was doing that because I was tired. I wasn't confident. I wasn't accepting who I was. You know, and all the things that
Easy
a
to
lot of
buy the
people
same
take
colour pants, wouldn't
a
it?
lot of people take that for granted. You know, they just wonder you're joking. What are you like that for?
No,
You know,
I
but
mean
it's
it's a normal thing to be fair. I mean a lot of people do that. I mean, the best one I had is a guy phoned me ages ago, and I always said he phoned me. I said, "Can you help me with my procrastination?" I said, "When do you want to start working together?" And he said, "Oh, let me think about it." I mean, that just sums it up, really. I mean, it's true. I mean, but so many of us do it, and we joke about it,
yeah,
but it's a serious thing because
yeah,
it does hold us back in life, and it stops us being the people that we truly want to be. And like I said before, you know, we talk ourselves out of opportunities to move forward so often because we're too busy looking at what could go wrong and the problems and reasons why we can't do things. And if
yeah,
you're looking around thinking cost of living, COVID, wars, blah, 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 strikes, there's a million reasons why we can't be successful in life. They're not going to help you move forward in life. Focusing on all of that, focusing on what
no,
you can do to be successful will help you move forward. And you can be successful no matter what's going on around you. My story tells you that, and your story demonstrates that. You know,
absolutely,
you've
yeah,
proved it. And so I think if there is any sort of qualms in people's minds about that, then diet here is a perfect example of why you should take that leap of faith and really move forward with your life. Like I said, whether it's me or anybody else, it's important that you do invest in yourself and find someone who's going to help you move forward like that. So, in terms of just to finish off, we're nearly finishing now because don't want to go on forever. But in terms of the cost versus value thing, in terms of how much you've invested into the process and how much you'd say it's been come back in terms of the value that you've inherited, how would you say that's benefit? Would you, in terms of those
oh,
two areas?
hugely. It's not even about the money now. You know,
No.
the reward that I've had in my personal life, in my relationships with my family,
Yeah.
and in my professional capacity has been phenomenal. And to you know, I there's no price you can put on that. You know,
Mm,
it's made it so much better for me
priceless.
to
Mm,
take that step, you know,
mm,
and get better and get better at life. And as I said to you many times, you know, this is die version 2 now. I've done with version 1. He was
yeah.
rubbish. Version 2 is up and running.
I love that
Yeah,
diversion.
yeah,
Isn't it? Yeah, diversion
yeah,
too. Make a
yeah.
film about
I could, yeah.
it. Well, thank you so much for coming on tonight. You've been wonderful, and you've given a really clear insight into your journey and how it's worked for you. You've done an amazing load of work on yourself, and I think you know you
Yeah,
should really be proud of yourself because you've done it. In terms of, you know, it's not easy at start. You know, it's very hard for you at times, but you've stuck with it. You worked through those difficult times. You put the work we've been doing together into practice, and that's one of the best things anyone could do. Because when I finish, when a client comes back to me and and you can see they've done the work, it's the best thing in the world to see from a coach's perspective, because you know that they're putting the stuff that we're teaching into practice, and the rewards are there for everyone to see. So well done.
Absolutely.
And give yourself a lot of credit
Thank
for
you.
that. So, and thank you for coming on tonight.
That's all right. No trouble.
All right.
Thanks for having me on.
It's my pleasure. It was always my pleasure. And I'm going to end that now. And thank you if you've tuned in and watched that tonight. And if you want to catch up with me and find out more about the programs I run and how I can help you, then please get in touch and I will kindly have a chat with you. Until then, I will see you all next time. And I'll see you next week.
Yeah, you will. Thanks, Mark. Good night.
Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.
Cheers.